General MacArthur drops a atomic bomb.
Hello everyone, welcome back to Axis and Allies 1951. This isn't really a special game that's being played. This is just me running through a solo version of the game. We made some changes since Operation Backstop. And so just kind of going around and taking a look at stuff. And after the changes, I decided to just try and go through a solo match on my own and see how it goes. So we are starting off with turn 1 for the Allies. This is supposed to be a 1. I don't know where I found this dice at home. Not sure what game it belongs to, but figured I'd use this to count turns. So we're on turn 1 for the Communists. Russia is buying 3 tanks, an infantry transport, and then one mobile artillery. And then they are buying 2 diplomacy and 1 tech. And then this is the United States paying to counter the Soviet diplomacy. Over for China, they are getting 2 tech, 2 diplomacy, 2 mech, a mobile artillery, and a fighter. And Sato is going to spend 3 of its IPC. Because they are going to counter the Chinese diplomacy role that they are going to do. So we'll get, let's see here, we'll get, come here. All right, we'll get the tech and diplomacy roles done first, and then we will get into the other, then we'll get into the combat orders. So first we'll start with the Russians and the Americans. Russia is going to try and diplomatically influence Turkey. Double sixes. That's looking good. As long as the Americans don't roll double sixes, Russia's going to succeed. And yep, no matter what. No matter what. All right, Russia succeeded in flipping Turkey, and they'll gain 8 infantry that they will get to use at the non-combat turn, but that is 2. I'll get that fixed in a minute. And then for technology, Russia is going for they were going for radar, and advanced submarines. So let's see if they can get it. And they do not get it. Okay. And then China. China is going for India. Okay, so they got 1-6. Sato. Got nothing. So China and Russia have flipped Turkey and India. And India is worth 5, so we'll give 5 to China. And then for their technology, China is going for the war bonds tech. And they failed. Well, they got good diplomats, but they got terrible scientists, the communists. So we will get the map updated, get the new units on, and we'll move into getting the combat orders out. All right, so going up into communist attack. So what we got is the Chinese and Soviet fleets in the Pacific are going to attack this small U.S. task force off of Japan. And then if that succeeds, the Chinese will be landing 2 infantry and artillery and a tank. And the Russians will be landing an infantry and a tank on mainland Japan. For the sea battle, the United States has... For the United States, we will scramble... Because you can scramble off of aircraft carriers 1 sea zone over, and they obviously can from here. So the U.S. will scramble the fighter and the tactical to try and even the odds out down there. China will move in to finish off the remaining American forces in South Korea. China will move to take the Victory City at Hong Kong. So the victory conditions in this game are the communists have to hold 8 victory cities on either side of the map. So either 8 cities in Europe, or 8 cities in Europe, 8 cities in the Pacific. And they already got 1 from India. And if they can get Hong Kong, that'll get the communists 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So then they'll just have to try and capture, right, is that right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yep, so that'll get them 6. So then that means they have to get 2 more in the Pacific, which if they get Japan, that will be their 7th, and then they'll have to either take the Philippines, Australia, Hawaii, or the Western United States to get that 8th one on the Pacific side. So they're going to move in to take Hong Kong. They're also going to move over here into Burma and smash the Sato forces in Burma. Russia is going to use this fleet right here and these landing forces to take Greece so they can open up the Dardanelles and get their fleet through. The Soviets will battle the U.S. forces in Austria and battle the Allied forces in Berlin to seal off the Berlin pocket. And finally, these 2 submarines are going to go up against this NATO task force. So we'll start in, let's see here. We'll go from Europe to the Pacific. So first we'll start with the naval fight off of Gibraltar. Let's get this set up. Get it pointing at the, oops, get pointing at the dice tray. God, I'm gonna get this. Okay, so it is going to be 2 Soviet subs against a NATO sub, NATO destroyer, and a NATO cruiser. Don't know how well this is going to go. So the 2 Soviet subs. Ooh, they got 2 hits on their first go. NATO sub, misses, destroyer, misses, cruiser, hits. Alright, so that now leaves 1 sub against 1 cruiser. If anything, I think I will, don't think, do I want to press that attack? You know what? Let's press it. Sub, misses, cruiser. Cruiser got it. Alright, so NATO won in the sea battle off of Gibraltar, though the Russians did damage the NATO task force pretty hard. We will go over to East Berlin, or we'll go over to Berlin next. Right now there's too many on there, so let's see here. So the Soviets have 6 infantry, 2 artillery, 1 mechanized artillery, 4 tanks, a jet, and a regular fighter against a Berlin force of an infantry, a mechanized infantry, an artillery, and a tank. And so let's see here. So because there's, so let's see here, 1, 2, 4. Okay, so 2 Soviet infantry will roll for 1. Miss. And then 4 Soviet infantry and 3 artillery, because regular artillery is 1 for 1 with infantry. Mobile artillery is 2 for 1. So, okay, so we'll do the 4 infantry first. So 4 infantry for 2. We got 2 of the American defenders. And then 3 for the 3 artillery. It's another 1. And then the Soviets have 4 tanks. 4 tanks and 1 fighter, so I'll just roll 5 dice. 4 for 3. And that's 1, 2, 3. That's all the American. Alright, that's all the American defenders. So the Americans will roll 3 for 2. They got 1. And then 1 for 3. Miss. So the Berlin defenders got 1 Soviet unit. And the Soviets capture Berlin. Okay. Now we'll move over to Austria. And the Soviet forces in Austria are 4 infantry and artillery, 2 tanks, and a tactical fighter. So that'll be 3 infantry for 1. And there are 3 American defenders. So 3 infantry for 1. That's 1. The artillery and 1 infantry for 2. That's the second. And then the 2 tanks for 3. And they got it. So that's all 3. And then the 3 American defenders got 1 as well. All right, so that clears out. So that should be most of Europe. The Soviets also gained two more for taking Austria. Next, we will go to the fight in Greece. So because there is no naval battle, the Russians get 4 cruisers for a shore bombardment at 3. That's 3, and Greece has 4 defenders. So Greece now only has 1 defender. So let's see here. So that's 2 infantry for 1. 2 mechanized infantry and a mobile artillery for 2. And they got the final Greek defender, and he rolls. And he got one of the Soviet army forces. So the Russians have captured Greece. They have opened the Dardanelles, and that gets them another 2 IPC. And then, so Greece will fall. We'll update the map afterwards. Okay, now we'll go down to Burma. I'll put this one on the battle board just so that way it's there. All right, so defenders are in infantry, a mech, and artillery versus 4 infantry and 3 artillery. Okay, so the Chinese will roll 1 for 1, miss, and they'll roll 6 for 2. Oops. Yeah, 6 for 2. 1, 2, 3. All right, that's all the Sato defenders. The Sato defenders will roll 3 for 2, and they got 1 of the Chinese infantry. All right, so China has taken Burma for 1 IPC. Then we'll move on to the battle in Hong Kong. In a second here, once I can get everything set up. All right, so in Hong Kong, Sato has 2 infantry and a fighter, and they are going up against, let's see here, 2 artillery, 3 infantry, and a fighter. The last couple playtests we've had, China has had always has a serious issues taking Hong Kong. So let's see how it goes. So 1 for 1. The communists have been really good about getting their 1s today. And then they get 4 for 2. 3. That's the rest of the Sato defenses. So then Sato gets 2 for 2. Miss, and 1 for 4. Ooh, miss. Wow. China got lucky there. So they have now taken Hong Kong. That's another victory city in their pocket for 3. 1, 2, 3. Boy, the communists are already on a roll this first turn. Get that put there. Put these in the mass graveyard that I'm setting up. Oh, excuse me. And then now we go to, we'll do the naval battle first. We'll do the naval battle and the battle for Japan. So I'll get that on the battle board quick. Let's see here. Yeah, the communists are going in with 2 subs, 4 destroyers, a fighter, a jet fighter, and a strategic bomber. And then they have the ground forces coming in behind them if they're able to win and move in on Japan. The United States in defense has a sub, a destroyer, a tactical, a fighter, and a battleship. All right, so we got the 2 subs, and subs have a target select of 1. So if they get a 1, they get to choose what C unit dies. We got a target select of 1. We're immediately going to hit that battleship. Now the 4 destroyers for 2. That's 2 hits. And then we have the fighter. Miss, and the jet and strategic bomber for 4. 1. All right, so the United States will hit back. 1. Submarine for 1. Miss. Destroyer for 2. Miss. Tactical bomber for 3. Hit. I suppose will cost us a sub. Yeah. And then the fighter and battleship for 4. In this game, when a battleship is damaged, its stats drop by 1. But for the first round of combat, it'll keep its value of 4 even though it's damaged. And they got 1 hit. Okay, so that's the end of round 1 of combat. As the United States, I'm going to elect to try and retreat from the fight. So to retreat, every retreating unit gets a dice roll against them. On a 1, the unit is destroyed. Anything else, they escape. So the escaping American fighter back to its carrier. Ooh, it got shot down. And the battleship trying to run for the safety of the carrier task force. And he makes it. All right. That is the sea battle over. Now we'll quickly get the board set up for the invasion of Japan, which I said will be carried off by Which is going to be carried off by 2 Chinese infantry, a Chinese artillery, and a Chinese tank, as well as a Soviet infantry and a Soviet tank. They will not have air cover in this game, in this battle. The United States is defending with an infantry, an artillery, an AA gun that'll soak up 1 hit, and a jet fighter. The The Americans cannot, they don't have any other air units with which to scramble to defend. So, okay. So we have the 2 communist infantry for 1. Miss. The Chinese infantry and artillery for 2. It's a hit on the anti-aircraft gun. Oof. And the 2 tanks for 3. Misses. Alright, so the 2 American defenders at 2. Ooh, that's not good. That's 2 hits. And their jet for 4. Oof. Well, it's an even contest at this point. Whatever, I should have tried to bring in air support. Suppose we could try and go one more round and see if we can still take Japan in one go. Alright, artillery for 1, or artillery for 2, miss, and the 2 tanks. Got 1. The U.S. defenders for 2. They got 1, and their jet for 4. Got it. Okay, yep. Alright, we have to retreat off of this fight. Dag. Drat. Probably should have committed more air assets to this fight than to the naval battle. The naval battle was pretty much won. So, the communists will retreat from their attack on Japan. And now we'll see here. So that's all the attacks. I'll get the map set. I'll get the map updated, and then we'll go into the get the map updated, and then we'll go into the non-combats. And as always, I usually always forget one thing. I forgot about the battle in Korea, so we'll get that set up real quick. Americans are defending with a tank, a fighter, an infantry, and an artillery. China is attacking with 4 infantry, 1 artillery, 1 tank, and a jet fighter. Okay. Alright, so the 3 Chinese infantry at 1. Got 1 of the American defenders, the infantry artillery combo, 0. Oof. The tank. Wow, and the jet. Wow. Not going good this time. Alright, so the Americans, 2 for the defender, infantry artillery for 2. Miss, tank for 3. Hit, and fighter for 4. Hit. It's 2 hits on the Chinese. Let's see here. We'll press the attack. So 1 for 1. So 2. 2 for 2. Miss. 1 for 3. Miss. 1 for 4. Ooh, miss. United States. 1 for 2. Miss. 1 for 3. Miss. And 1 for 4. Hit. Goodness. Oh my goodness. So in this game, you have each combat lasts 3 rounds. We gotta try and defeat the Americans. We gotta try and take South Korea. Alright, so infantry artillery combo for 2. Nothing. Tank. There's a hit. And the jet still misses. Goodness. Boy, the Chinese pilots are not doing it this time around. Alright, so the American artillery misses. The tank misses. And its fighter misses. Alright, so China has to retreat from its attack because we have now hit 3 rounds of combat. They retreat back into North Korea with an infantry, artillery, a tank, and a jet. And the Americans are left with a fighter, and a tank on the Korean mainland. This will probably upset China's timetables a little bit here. Okay, now I'll finish getting the map up to date, and then we'll get into the non-combat turns. All right, we're back with the non-combat turns for the communist forces. So we'll start in Europe here. Try and set my camera in a spot where I'm not hitting anything. So starting off, we're going to consolidate all of our subs here. Bring these 2 destroyers in as well. Leave the 2 transports there for now. In Central Europe, oh, this American unit is gone. And of course, I forgot to put a rondel on Austria. Go figure. So what we'll do in Austria, so here's what I'm going to do. So all the ground forces here in Slovakia are going to move in to here, and we're going to consolidate the 2 armies. There. We're going to do the same with the forces in Poland, all the ground troops in Poland. We're going to go into Germany. Then in Poland is where all of the aircraft from these armies are going to meet. We're going to basically turn Poland in. We're going to turn this Northern Army group into an Air Force unit. So that'll be bringing in the jet and fighter from Germany, the fighter and tactical from Romania. Actually, no. I'll bring the fighter, but I'm going to leave the tactical bomber. The tactical that was in Austria will fly and join the air army here. Let's see here. This tactical in East Poland will come and join the air army. Let's see here. What else we got? There is a jet up here in Leningrad that is going to come and join the air army in Poland. There's a fighter up there that we're going to leave. So as we kind of start moving stuff around. So let's see here. We're going to bring the Baltic state forces, these forces in East Poland, this mech, this tank, and then these tanks are going to come into Poland. I'll just add them with the air army real quick. They'll go on the air army board as well. What next? So these 3 infantry will go into Poland. This artillery will come into Poland. We'll move you here. You are actually going to turn and come to the Caucasus. This mech in the Caucasus will come to Turkey. Reinforce there. Rule in this game is that if a fighter does not take place in any combat, it can land in newly conquered territory because of the upgrades in engineering. So these 2 fighters in the Ukraine are also going to come down and reinforce Turkey. So fighters and tactical bombers are the only ones that can use that rule, which is why the tactical bomber that was in Romania is also now going to come here. This tank in Kazakhstan is going to come to Turkey as well. see here. Other units up north. Got 2 tanks in Leningrad that are also going to come down into Poland. And that'll leave Leningrad. I'll leave Leningrad with a defense of 3 infantry and artillery and a fighter. That marker is right here. The forces in Moscow. So the 2 airborne and the transport aircraft are going to go down to the Ukraine. Maybe. Or do I send them out east? The communists might need airborne power out in the east. So let's see here. 1, 2. All right, so air transports can only go 6 spaces. It has to conduct airborne. Airborne operations can only be conducted from an airfield. You can move the units to a territory that doesn't have an air base. However, you can't like launch an attack from there with the airborne troops afterwards. So I'm thinking what I'm going to do is with these airborne forces. 1, 2, 3. Oh no, they'll make it. So we're transferring 2 airborne units to China. They will, I'll put them on Peking in a little bit. This fighter is going to join the massive air army here in Poland. And the Soviets' 1 atomic bomber, I think we will send it to, well, we'll send it to Poland as well to be defended by the massive air army there. The rest of the ground forces in Moscow, these tanks will head to Belarus. The rest of the army is going to go forward. We're going to take these 2 anti-aircraft guns and put it with the army. And then, like I said, the 2 airborne units. I think I have that right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yep. They will come to China and land in Peking, the capital. That should be, oh, yep, that should be all the Soviet moves right now. Yes, no. This anti-aircraft gun in Poland is going to move into Germany to provide anti-aircraft gun support to the forces in Germany. Okay, now over to China. Okay, so working it off in India. We're going to leave India alone for right now. Let's see here. Over here. Just got to make sure I'm not going to hit anything. Yeah, that should be good. Okay, so this fighter is going to come back to, let's see, 1, 2, 3. It'll come back to its air base here. This infantry will go 1 south. These 2 will actually stay there and remain as reserve. These 8 infantry and artillery will head south to reinforce the attack into Southeast Asia. Up in the north here, we need to leave a defense of the capital. But I'm going to shift. Actually, I'm going to take 1 infantry off of this stack and send it forward to help defend this area. It's only got a fighter and an anti-aircraft gun. And we need to protect our coast, but we can still leave a 3-unit reserve here. And then, obviously, this fighter will... So let's see, it went 1, 2 for the sea battle. We'll land him in North Korea. We'll take the Soviet planes, move them back. Unfortunately, this Soviet tank is stuck on that transport, and the transports are stuck here. Wait a minute. The American defenses on Japan are wrong. That should be a tank. No, never mind. Nope, that's correct. I was wrong. Okay. That should be all the non-combats for the communists. So let's deploy. So the Chinese are deploying 2 mechanized infantry and a mobile artillery here, and are deploying another fighter here. Meanwhile, for the Russians, they're deploying another infantry and transport here off of Japan. And then in Europe, they have a mobile artillery. Or wait, hold on. Not done yet with Russia. Okay, so the army here will head to Slovakia. You'll go, the Southern Army, made up of infantry, artillery, and tank, will head to Slovakia. And then the one unit from Bulgaria will move to Albania. Okay, now we can deploy. Mobile artillery to Romania. And then 3 tanks will deploy in Poland. Okay, so then let's get this set back real quick. We can make this work. All right, so at the end of the turn, China will get 41 IPC and Russia will get 53 IPC. And from there, I mean, overall, a decent first turn. Russia has a gateway into the Middle East and a gateway into the Mediterranean. China has secured a flank against Sato by taking India. Granted, the battle around Japan was not how how China wanted that to go, or how the communists wanted that to go. But I mean, relatively successes all around in Europe and the Mediterranean and stuff. So that'll be it for the communist turn. We'll be back another time with the Allied turn. So until then, guys, take care.